Eleanor Roosevelt, do solemnly swear.
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution.
The Constitution of the United States. So help me God.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Our Constitution in the News. I'm Mark David Smith. I'll be using several internet articles for my base outline in this report. Number one is titled "The Constitutional Convention is Closer Than You Think." It was posted February 28, 2019 by Abby Pizzell from coloradofiscal.org. Number two article is titled "Convention to Purpose Amendments to the United States Constitution." This is a Wikipedia article and title, as a matter of fact. The number three article is titled "A Call for a Convention of States." You can find that at conventionofstates.com. The fourth article I'll be using as my base outline is titled "The Idea of a Second Convention," and that's from the Center for the Study of the American Constitution website at csac.wisc.edu. And now for my research on the Constitutional Convention. The first and only Constitutional Convention convened in 1787. It created the framework for the United States Constitution and the government we know today. To ensure a balance of power, the framers included Article 5 of the Constitution, which outlines mechanisms for future constitutional amendments. And I'll be reading you a little bit of history later on this report. This is how Article 5 of our United States Constitution reads. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or on the application of the legislators of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which, in either case, shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment which may be prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the 9th section of the first article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. Now, Article 5 contains two ways to amend the United States Constitution. Number one is Congress can propose amendments, or number two, states can call for a constitutional convention, and or otherwise called an Article 5 convention. There are two paths going forward. Under Article 5, Congress has the authority to propose constitutional amendments. Any amendment proposed must pass through each chamber of Congress by a 2/3 majority and then be ratified by 38 of the 50 states. It's obvious this part of Article 5 has been used, as there are 27 amendments in the Constitution right now. Alternatively, Article 5 allows the states to call what's called a constitutional convention. The purpose of this part of Article 5 is to give state legislatures power over an obstinate, uncooperative Congress. if 34 of 50 states submit a resolution proposing an amendment on one topic or many topics, or just a general call for convention without proposing any specific topic. Amendments proposed during a constitutional convention must also be ratified by 38 states. Since the first and only original Constitutional Convention of 1787, Congress has proposed 33 constitutional amendments. 27 have been ratified, which of course gives us our 27 amendments in our Constitution. There has never been a constitutional convention called by the states. However, many states have made efforts to call a convention. Estimates show state legislatures have passed hundreds of resolutions calling for an Article 5 constitutional convention in the last 200 years. Today, 42 states have at least one Article 5 resolution pending. Even though the Article 5 convention process has never been used to amend the Constitution, the number of states applying for a convention has nearly reached the required threshold several times. Congress has proposed amendments to the Constitution on some occasions, at least in part, because of the threat of a second Article 5 constitutional convention. Rather than risk such a convention taking control of the amendment process, Congress acted preemptively to propose the amendments instead. The Bill of Rights was one of the additions, which includes the first 10 amendments as well as the 27th Amendment. Both were proposed in part to ratify the Constitution. The Bill of Rights actually eliminated a proposed second constitutional convention. The idea for a second convention began late in the proceedings at the Philadelphia Convention in 1787. Prominent delegates espoused the idea of adding amendments and a Bill of Rights to the Constitution. These additions would be considered by a second convention prior to the implementation of the Constitution. The delegates at Philadelphia rejected the idea. While the Confederation Congress debated the transmittal of the Constitution to the states, Virginia delegate Richard Henry Lee proposed amendments to the Constitution. Congress rejected Lee's amendments. Lee later wrote to suggest another general convention to consider amendments prior to the Constitution's implementation. Congress again rejected Lee's amendments. In his inaugural address, President George Washington recommended that Congress propose a Bill of Rights. James Madison took the lead in advocating amendments in the U.S. House of Representatives. Both feared a second general convention and hoped that rights-type amendments proposed by Congress would scuttle all plans for a second convention that might radically alter the Constitution. Congress approved 12 amendments, mostly a list of rights, and sent them to the states for ratification. In doing so, a central issue that drove the desire for a second convention was eliminated. So basically, by putting in the Bill of Rights and the first 10 amendments and the 27th Amendment, they eliminated the process of doing a second constitutional convention. The first constitutional convention of 1787 is the one that gave us our Constitution. Article 5 efforts today. Every state except Hawaii has applied for an Article 5 convention at one time or another. The majority of such applications were made in the 20th century. The United States House of Representatives is in the process of building its own official count, which currently stands at over 120, with 35 states having current live calls that have not been rescinded. So what they're saying is there's 125 live calls to have a constitutional convention, 125 current submissions with 35 states that are standing right now. As I said before, to be able to call a constitutional convention, a new one, you would have to have 38 states. Even though there are 120 different submissions to do this, only 35 states have actually got that going right now. Nationally, several efforts are underway to call a constitutional convention. Interest in a convention spans the political spectrum, with support and opposition coming from both Democrats and Republicans. Some focus on a single topic, while others have multiple amendments based on broader topics. Of all the applications, a federal balanced budget amendment has gained the most traction, making it the most likely candidate to convene an Article 5 constitutional convention. Another effort led by the Convention of States project, found at conventionofstates.com, is working on a convening constitutional convention based on three topics: limiting the federal government's powers, restraining fiscal spending, and establishing term limits for members of Congress and other federal elected officials. According to The Economist, the Convention of States project passed its first resolution in 2014 and has since passed resolutions in 12 states. While the Convention of States project has passed fewer resolutions than the Balanced Budget Amendment Task Force, the group boasts 3 million volunteers nationally. So who is the Convention of States project? Taken from their website, and I quote, "A national effort to call a convention under Article 5 of the United States Constitution, restricted to proposing amendments that will impose fiscal restraints on the federal government, limit its power and jurisdiction, and impose term limits on its officials and members of Congress." So why call a convention of states? Simple: to bring back to the states and the people, to bring back the states and the people where it belongs. Unelected bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. shouldn't be allowed to make sweeping decisions that impact millions of Americans, but right now they do. So it all boils down to one question: who do you think should decide what's best for you and your family? You or the feds? We'd vote for the American people every single time. So what's a convention of states anyway? Our convention, this is from the Convention of States website, says our convention would only allow the states to discuss amendments that limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government, impose fiscal restraints, and place term limits on federal officials. And so who's behind this? The American people. The Convention of States project is first and foremost a movement of grassroots citizens who are fed up with business as usual in DC. We're funded by thousands of everyday patriots who have committed their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to protecting liberty for future generations. Now, as I was on the website, as you look at the first page there of everything that they talk about who they are, as you get towards the bottom of the page, listed on the website with their quotes are people such as the Honorable Jeb Bush, Mark Levine, Ben Shapiro, Senator Rand Paul, James O'Keefe, Sean Hannity, the Honorable Ben Carson, Sarah Palin, Dr. James Dobson, and many, many, many more. You can, if you're on that page, which is conventionofstates.com, you can take a look at all that they have to say. And at the bottom, you'll see all these different people that are a part of this project. So to sign up and be a part of this extremely worthy project, go to conventionofstates.com. Now, there are many positive and negative articles on the internet concerning today's use of the second part of Article 5. The state this country is in today, along with heavy, heavy prayer and a commitment to follow the ways of our one and only true God, this may be the only way to get our country back on track. Please do your own research on this subject, this article, Article 5 of our Constitution of the United States. My research for this episode of our Constitution in the News came from a constitutional convention is Closer Than You Think, posted February 28, 2019 by Abby Pizzell from coloradofiscal.org. Convention to propose amendments to the United States Constitution, which is a Wikipedia article title. A call for a convention of states, which is at conventionofstates.com. And finally, the idea of a second convention from the Center for the Study of American Constitution website at csac.history.wisc.edu. Thank you for joining, and please use the website for all your Messianic media needs. There are over 1,300 Messianic videos at the Lamb Network website. Messianic media for the Messianic lifestyle at www.messianiclambnetwork.com. Remember, the world is changing. If we play by the old rules, we're going to lose the new battles. Mark my words. Thank you for joining us for this episode of our Constitution in the News. I'm Mark David Smith.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hugi, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.
Eleanor Roosevelt, do solemnly swear.
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States. So help me God.